Morning, everyone. Well, the problem of children who become more religious than their parents is one that is become a well-known phenomenon in recent generations, in recent years, and it creates lots and lots of problems, primarily for the parents who get very upset on two counts. First of all, they have a belief that the kind of Judaism that they have practiced should be good enough. And why are their children wanting to do more? In other words, by doing more, by practicing more, by becoming more religious, it is, in a sense, a slight to the standards that the parents themselves have adopted, and they feel quite offended at that. And the second problem is a more practical one, that it just creates enormous logistical difficulties in the home in terms of if you don't run a kosher home and your kids are going to be kosher, how do you manage it? What do you do? All of a sudden, Shabbat becomes a problem. A Friday night dinner, a Shabbat lunch, parents going out and doing their things, families that, are not Shomer Shabbat, and suddenly the children want to be Shomer Shabbat, so huge difficulties. And here is a woman from Long Branch, New Jersey, who writes to the Lubavitcher Rebbe, bitterly complaining that her children have become too frum. They've become too religious. Now, I'm not quite sure what she expects the Lubavitcher Rebbe to do with this. Maybe she has an expectation that he's going to write to the children, or connect with the children and tell them to cool it, to forget it, don't, after all, there's kibbut av v'em, you have to respect your parents. At any rate, this is what he answers. I duly received your letter in which you write about a situation where the children are more strictly observant than the parents and the problems that it creates in a home. Since you invite me to comment on this situation, I would like to say the following. It is surely unnecessary to explain at length that parents always desire their children to have a firm and a proper outlook in life. And this is especially true in our day and age, when which is one of deep confusion in regard to the real values in life, and where so many young people are at a loss to find their true bearings. Therefore, it is obvious how happy parents should feel when their children do in fact have a strong commitment to a meaningful way of life, which additionally is in harmony with the tradition of both sides of the family, as you make it clear. And it's well known that this way of life also attaches great importance to the children having a positive attitude towards their parents, especially since the honoring of one's parents, one's father and mother, is one of the 10 commandments. Now, it's very subtly, he's saying to this woman, you're going to benefit from this, lady. Your kids are going to become a lot nicer to you than they used to be. They're going to really give you honor because they've now discovered that honoring parents is an important part of being a religious Jew. So think about that. All of this should make parents feel rather fortunate and should give them a great measure of peace of mind, and certainly should not be a cause for them to make the situation more complicated and more difficult for the children than it needs to be. In other words, count your blessings. Moreover, a very welcome trend in the larger cities in recent years has been the dramatic growth in the percentage of children who are more strictly committed to the observance of the Torah and mitzvot in daily life than their parents happen to be, together with the fact that these parents have nachas from their children and take great pride in them. So what he's saying to this lady is stop belly aching, stop complaining, count your blessings, have nachas from your children because you've got kids, who are doing good things. I trust that the above lines, though all too brief in relation to the subject matter, will for a person of your background suffice to provide some food for thought and encourage you to see that not only are the peace and harmony at home fully preserved, but also to consider it an achievement to have brought up such fine children whose ambition is to go from strength to strength in the Jewish way of life, and certainly not to react negatively and make it difficult for them in any way, God forbid. May you and your husband truly have lots of Yiddish nachas from each and all of your children, good health and a happy frame of mind. In other words, he dismisses her complaint. Well, it's not always as simple as that. It's sometimes a lot more complicated. It's particularly more complicated when the kids themselves turn against the parents. But that's another story, and perhaps we'll come to that in our online session shortly.